Morning to each and every one. Thank you to our media team, our readers, and all who are here present with us this morning. Thank you for your presence and for your participation here today. Well, this morning I am led to talk with you concerning managing our energy, managing our energy, as opposed to managing our time. Well, physicists have long described time as a progression of events from the past to the present into the future. They say that time is something that we cannot see, we cannot touch, we cannot taste, but yet we can measure. And time moves, think about this, time only moves in one direction. Time moves forward, not backward. When something is unchanging, we tend to say that it is timeless. Isn't that correct? So in that respect, we can say that spiritual principle is timeless. And God as spiritual principle, God as principle is timeless. Well, it's Tony Schwartz who coined the phrase managing energy. And his work was focused on the many hours of the day that people spent and utilized chasing what he calls incorrect resources. He says that while many tend to put in many hours of working and working and working and working overtime with the thought and the desire of getting a particular something done, either wanting to complete a project or a task or wanting to just feel complete from having completed that project or task. And thinking that once this task or once this assignment or once this project is complete, then I'll rest. I've been there. I've done that. How about you? However, when what we're doing and what we're engaged in is approached from that perspective, it tends to leave a person tired, exhausted, perhaps unfulfilled, or incomplete. And that's because the way the situation is being approached from the perspective of time and working and working and working against the clock and getting it done and getting it finished and getting it completed, that approaching the situation in that way, mentally in consciousness and physically in activity, is inverted, it's inside out, and it's upside down. That approach is upside down. Think with me for a moment. There are 24 hours in each day. There are 168 hours in each week. Everyone has the same availability in terms of the amount of time, daily and weekly. No one has 30 hours in a day or 200 hours in a week. We each have the same 24/7, the same 24 hours in a day, the same 168 hours in a week. A key to how productive we are in those hours is not if we completed our to-do list. Hear that. A key to how productive we are in those hours is not if we completed the to-do list or the task list. It's not how we managed those hours. It's not how we manage that time. And I understand clearly that time management gurus teach time by the clock management. And I'm going to speak on that because consciously or unconsciously, most of us have been conditioned in terms of time. We've been conditioned from little toddlers in terms of time and being clock watchers, rushing to be on the job at a certain time, leaving work to rush home at a certain time, lunch hours assigned at a certain time, vacations requested or assigned at a certain time. Our orientation as a society has been the clock, the time on the clock. And I understand that while timing is important and it's necessary, it has its purpose. It helps to create and maintain order. Yes, it does. It helps to create and maintain order. However, living solely by time and managing time is ineffective for the soul. Living solely by time and managing our time and managing how much we get done in a certain amount of time is ineffective for the soul, for soul growth, for soul development. You see, the challenge is not how we manage the hours in the day. The challenge is not how we manage the hours in the week, but how we manage ourselves in those hours. Manage ourselves, you might be saying? Yes. How we manage our energy in those hours in the day. How we manage our energy in those hours in the week. Over years of time, I've experienced and I've learned that working endlessly does not increase productivity. There are many corporations who have learned that these days. Working endlessly or continuing to go on and on and on in whatever we're doing endlessly does not increase productivity. Yet, managing my energy, I have learned, supports me in being focused, being centered, being more alert, being more in the moment, being more precise, and it affords me a sharper third eye, sharper use of the mind's eye. It affords me the opportunity to see with more clarity beyond the surface of something, beyond the surface of an event, beyond the appearance of an event to the essence of it. Managing my energy, I have learned over time that managing my energy is far more productive than managing time and hours. Therefore, I've been led for a number of years to have one clock, one digital clock in the entire household. Now, years ago, there was a clock in the kitchen, a clock in the bedroom, a clock here, a clock there, a watch on my arm. I have learned through energy management to have one clock in the household. For the past 15 months, from March of last year, I have not worn a watch. Yet I've lived by the feel of my body's energy and the energy around me, by the energy of the sun and the physical energy and movements of other human beings on the planet. And that has given a pretty good sense of time and knowing where I stand in time by being focused on those forms of energy. I've come to pretty much know that by the sound of nature and the rise of the sun in the morning, having a good idea of what time it is. I've come to realize that the birds begin chirping about 4 a.m. in the morning. No one tells them to chirp. They know when to begin. I've come to learn that the sunlight comes through a particular window about 5:15 in the morning. I share that with you to help you to understand that when we pay attention to the energy around us and the energy within us, we live with greater ease. We're not clock watchers at that point and rushing, and I only have 10 minutes, and I only have 30 minutes, and I only have an hour. We're moving with nature. We're moving with ease. We're moving with the energy within us, the God energy that is flowing through us. Everything is energy. Everything in the universe is energy. And I understand that the world speaks about time management. In spirit and in truth, it is energy management. When we manage our energy, we manage our life. I'm going to say that again. When we manage our energy, we manage our life, and we live a better life. Time can forsake us, but God as energy is ever flowing with accuracy. It beckons our call. Energy wants our attention. It has a message for us. Charles Fillmore, one of the two co-founders of the Unity movement, along with his wife, Myrtle, says in The Revealing Word is a book of metaphysical terms. Charles Fillmore says that energy, metaphysically, is zeal in motion. We know that zeal is one of the 12 powers. Energy, he describes as zeal in motion. And he goes on to say, hear this, that energy is the forerunner of every effect. Energy is the forerunner of every effect, every result. Energy is the thing that goes before every result we experience. He describes energy as the power of God within me and within you. He describes energy as strength or vigor in expression. He describes energy as the capacity of acting or producing an effect or a result. Energy, not time, not racing against the clock, but energy. Paying attention to energy around us, about us, within us. When our energy feels low, look at what's causing that. Maybe it's something we've eaten. I know that for myself, if I eat something that has too much sugar, I begin to feel lethargic. Maybe it's something we've eaten. Maybe it's thoughts that we're having that are weighing us down and causing us to feel like our energy is low and depleted. Maybe it's someone else's energy that we're taking on. Maybe it's a cloudy day and we're not feeling or experiencing the energy of the sun. And when our energy is feeling spiritually high and zealous, let's look at what causes that. Now, while we understand that when we're in the workplace, the clock is a conditioning factor. So we must look for ways in that situation to stay attuned to energy in a different way. The feelings, the promptings, and the signals of energy. To be aware of the surrounding energy. Do you know it is so easy to take on the energy of others. It is absolutely easy to receive and take on the energy of others. That's why we need to have affirmations that just block out something when something is said and it's not for our highest good, to understand and to learn how to use those affirmations to just block it out and not allow it to come into our consciousness, not allow that energy to come in and take root in our consciousness. We will pick up the energy around us. So we have to be attuned to ourselves and to what's going on around us and the environments that we place ourselves in. Energy management. When we create ways to stop and rest, when the body says, I want to rest, whether it's 30 seconds of affirming an affirmation or 5 seconds of just closing our eyes while we sit there, when we create ways to stop, when the body says stop and rest, whether it's a huge stretch or getting up to just walk for a minute or two, whatever the body is asking for, being attuned and giving the body what it's asking for. The key is attunement to the energy of God within us and yielding to its call. Being attuned to the energy of God within and yielding to its call. We will get much more done because we will be much more alert. Have you ever realized, have you felt, have you experienced that when you are feeling tired and you stop for 5 minutes and just sit for 5 minutes and recharge, that you can come back to the task, you can come back to the assignment, you can come back to the project more energized? Have you realized that? Have you realized that when you stop and take a nap, when you stop and sit, when you stop, just cut it all? What you're doing is recharging, renewing the energy. Jesus did that well. You know, Jesus felt the energy of the woman who touched the hem of his garment. That's what that story is about. Energy. He didn't physically see her touch it, but he felt it. And he said, who touched me? She felt that if she just touched the hem of his garment, she could be healed. But he felt that energy. He felt that touch. And as we grow and continue to develop, that's what we want. We want to be able to feel something, to sense something, to know something before it actually happens without seeing it with our physical eyes, but sensing it. Awareness to the spiritual energy, it impacts our physical being, our emotional being, and our mental being. Awareness to spiritual energy, it impacts our total being. It will impact our physical state, our emotional state, as well as our mental state. Everything in the universe is energy vibrating at various frequencies. We cannot create energy, nor can we destroy energy. Amen. We simply take energy and use it and transform it from one form to another. To use it to transform one something to another something. Think about this. The farmer takes a seed and plants it in the ground. Within that seed is energy. Within that seed is intelligence. And it goes into the ground. It knows how to grow. No one tells it how to grow. It knows how to grow. And when it is grown to a particular size, we take it, we eat it, it nourishes and sustains our body as well as supports our movements and our activity. So that energy in the seed is then transformed to the nourishment of energy within the body. Everything is energy in one form or another, vibrating at various frequencies. Excuse me. Be it spiritual energy, electrical energy, chemical energy, or solar energy. Everything is energy. Scientists have said that if we could just harness the amount of energy from the sun in one day, if we could just harness the amount of energy that shines on the earth from the sun in one day, we could supply the entire planet for a year. Isn't that interesting? We could harness the energy from the sun. If we can harness the energy of God within us, if we could harness that energy, first we must be aware of it, but if we could harness that energy, imagine what can be accomplished. Not by the clock, but by the spiritual energy of God that lives and moves and has its being within us, because spiritual energy never runs out. It cannot be depleted. We can run around the track exercising, and after a while, our body becomes tired. Spiritual energy never depletes itself. We don't create energy. We can't destroy energy. It never completes itself. It never depletes itself. There is always more. We just have to be attuned to it and work in alignment with it. So energy, like life, has no beginning and no end. It simply shifts from one state to another at any given time. Energy that's used for good replenishes itself. Energy used otherwise can be depleting. Think about that. The energy of love multiplies love. The energy of worry can be draining or depleting. Now, while we cannot go back in time and remake a new beginning, when we begin to stop and think of how we lived by time and lived by the clock and lived to get this done in a certain amount of time, we cannot go back and remake that. But what we can do from where we are now is begin to be more attuned to the energy around us and within us. And from that point, we can create a new beginning. We can't go back and change it, but we can create a new beginning and a new ending, because the new beginning will affect and have an effect on the ending. And we can do that. Some of the ways in which we can do that is by increasing our meditation time, our time of solitude with God. That's a time of replenishing. Not only are we listening to the still small voice or for the still small voice, but we're also replenishing ourselves. We do that by listening to what's happening to the body. Do we eat, for instance, when we first begin to feel a little bit of hunger, or do we just eat to be eating? Listening to the signals, to the energy within, listening and being attuned to Mother Nature. Can we can we get accustomed to listening to the animals on the planet and knowing, having a good idea of when the rain is coming? Or do we only depend on the weather forecasters for that? How attuned to nature, to the energy of nature. There was a time when there was no clock, and people lived by the attunement of nature, and we've gotten away from it. But it is so accurate, and it does not cause us to rush and hustle and bustle, but to live a more peace-filled and ease-filled life. What is being said to you, through you, by nature? Let me share this story with you. If you have ever attended any of the auto racing racetracks, you would notice that the best of the racing cars and the best of the drivers in those cars, the fastest and most updated automobiles, they stop at pit stops along the way. Have you noticed that? Have you ever watched it on TV, or have you ever been there in person? It doesn't matter how fine the car is. It doesn't matter how skilled the driver is, how great the performance is. The pit stop serves the purpose of refueling the car and the driver, and it is absolutely necessary to continue on in the race, to stop and refuel in order to get to the finish line, in order to get to the goal line. That same principle holds true in the lives of each and every one of us. We must know when to stop and refuel. And we'll know that by being attentive to the energy that's going on, that's shaking up or feeling low in our body temple. By being attentive to the energy of what's going on around us. Have you ever been in a room, in an office, in somewhere, in some space, and someone enters the room and you feel their energy? They haven't said anything, but you can feel their energy. You can feel their attitude. You can feel where they're coming from. You can feel what they're about before they've even spoken. Have you ever been there? Have you ever experienced that? I have. That's energy management that cues us on responding, that cues us on moving away from or moving towards that energy that is being expressed by that person or through that person. Minding our energy is productive. Minding our energy and being good stewards of our energy, being good stewards of energy management gives us greater productivity. And that is why large corporations today, Zoom, other large corporations, some of the airlines have meditation rooms now for their employees and allow 20 minutes in the schedule for their employees to utilize the gym or utilize the meditation room. Because the world comes to know that it's not about time management as we have thought for many, many years. And there are gurus and there are podcasts and there are books and there are workshops and there are webinars on time management, on managing the clock. My friends, it is energy management. It is energy management. And the world is coming to know that and to live that. As Cheryl Renee sang this morning in the meditation song, use me, oh God, use me. Use your energy in me to do your will. And as the scripture read this morning, and this touches me, this scripture from Philippians. Energy is God at work in you and in me, enabling us to will and to work for God's good pleasure. God's energy of good in you and in me enables us to will and to work for God's good pleasure. God's energy in us, the energy of God within us, the energy of God flowing around us, and being in tune with that energy, being alert to that energy, being sensitive to that energy. I was in a meeting some years back, and I was in a meeting with some other unity ministers, and someone walked in the room who was not a unity person, so they had a different perspective than most of us in the room. And they began talking, and it was obvious that they were speaking from ego. And when they left the room, several of the ministers said, my energy dropped by what was being put forth by this person. Do not allow yourself to be in that space. Create affirmations that block that out when that happens. Do not allow yourself to take on negative energy or energy that gives you the feeling that your energy is being depleted. Knowing that it can't be depleted, but it's a feeling of knowing it's been being depleted. It is God at work in you and in me, enabling us to will and to work for God's good pleasure. Mind and manage your energy, my friends. Mind and manage your energy more than your time, and you will be more productive. You will be more responsive, and you will live a more ease-filled life by managing your energy more than your time. God bless you. I bless you. And so it is. Namaste.